They are guardians of the wild, men and women taking care of the most endangered. They patrol through some of the toughest African bush. They risk their lives collecting snares, stopping the supply to wet markets in Asia. They are fighting a war, chasing poachers, battling to save species. They watch so our world doesn't burn. But who takes care of them now? Rangers across Africa now being laid off, cut back. Rangers who now need us so they can continue to serve. Project Ranger. Join us in preventing the new poaching pandemic.
And we're going to tell you a bit later in this forum exactly how you can help protect and support the Ranger program. Derek, give us a brief overview of where it is now. How many Rangers are in the field? How are you supporting this program? And we'll come back later to exactly how all of us can participate.
Well, absolutely, Pat. We've, as I said, sort of broke straight away from Great Plains coverage into a continent-wide one. And so across 7 countries now, we have about 180 Rangers funded. And we have pledges, matching funding coming in this week, funny enough, that would more than double that. And so we're on our way. And that's really fantastic. So we have Rangers in Mozambique, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Zambia, going into Zambia, Uganda, Tanzania, Kenya. So it's really rolling. And I cannot express just how much gratitude and how deep the thanks are. We're getting messages from the Rangers saying, I cannot thank you enough. You know, $10 goes such a long way for us. In northern Tanzania, Rangers have been laid off. We funded a patrol in there. They went out and immediately found dead giraffe being snared, and then followed up and immediately caught those poachers. Now, that is bush meat. And I do want to make sure that everybody really understands the difference here. Very often people think that the bushmeat trade is insignificant and it's sort of there because people in communities or people living near wildlife are getting poor or they need to subsist off this. This is not subsistence hunting. The bushmeat trade is organized crime. The bushmeat that's happening out of northern Botswana and into Mozambique and Angola and all of southern Africa is finding its way all the way up to the Congo and is collecting huge prices. And so, it's illegal, and that's what we've got to do. I do want to say, though, Pat, as well, aware of time, that I said we've got to look down at our feet to make sure we secure this. But the second strategy that we adopt is looking at the horizon. And if we are going to secure the future for conservation in Africa or anywhere in the world, it has to be with an eye on that horizon and the hope on that horizon, and where we should be spending, if not more effort than what we're doing in supporting boots on the ground, has got to be in education and empowering the people, and in particular, not just the children, but the women that are the pillars of these societies up and down through Africa, and making sure that they come to the table knowledgeable with food security, with water security, with good education, so that we can have a common goal and common dialogue going forward.
And we're going to just spend some time now and focused on exactly what the role of women is and how significant and important it is in a just, equitable, and sustainable recovery on any continent, but in particular, the resilience of African women has always been, for me, the model of what we need to tap into and strengthen and support in any way we can. And there is such a program, which the Great Plains Foundation has been a key part of partnering with India's Barefoot College, and in particular, the Barefoot College International Program that selects women, rural village women from all over the world, brings them to India, trains them to be solar engineers, not just relying on the resilience, but on the intelligence, the training that can be transformative. And we're going to talk about that more with our next guest who will join us after this video. But first, let's take a look at what we are describing as a Solar Mamas program.
I'm very excited, and what I can say to them is that thanks for what they have done to me, and I'm very honored to the Great Plains as well as the Barefoot College.
I can never watch anything about the Solar Mamas without tearing up a bit. And I want to, and I can see that the person responsible for this training program in so many parts of the world, and certainly here, is Megan Falone. Please welcome. Megan is the 2018 Hillary Institute Laureate for her global leadership in the areas of climate change, poverty reduction, social justice, and the economic empowerment of women. And if I could name one person who does all of that seemingly every day and seamlessly, it is Megan. Please welcome Megan. I know that your experience as a sort of serial entrepreneur in the world has given you this deep faith that you can go into a village, select a woman, take her out of her environment into India, and train her to do something she's never thought she'd be possible for her to do. And then she returns to her village, a transformed leader. Talk to us about the Solar Mamas program and why you saw this opportunity, indeed this need, to partner with the Great Plains Foundation and Derek and Beverly Jobert. And before that, let me introduce another key person, the managing director of the Great Plains Foundation, Daphne Kadiwa. Welcome, Daphne. Welcome, Megan. Megan?
Thank you, Pat. Such a pleasure to be with you all today. And of course, nothing makes me more emotional than to see those women, our women, that my team and I watch arrive looking afraid and scared and unsure and tentative, and then leave with that kind of confidence and that just unbelievable transformation to pick their head up and say to almost any challenge, I can. And that's really the beauty of this program. The access to technology, the opportunity for women in particular to engage with different kinds of technology has an almost magical effect on their belief in themselves, in their ability to gain confidence and competence that actually makes them feel they have the power to change things in their community. But it really starts with a human contact, like all beautiful things. Start with listening. And I had the great good fortune to spend time not only with Beverly and Derek's staff at Great Plains in Botswana, but in each of the communities that border the Okavango Delta, and to understand deeply this interconnectedness that Beverly and Derek have spoken of, the interconnectedness socially, economically, geographically, and in every possible way to look at what Barefoot could do and design together with the team at Great Plains that would actually mobilize those communities in the ways that would increase their economic, diversity of opportunities to engage women in decision-making and in being a voice in their communities. It was so clear to me as we sat, Bruce Petty and I, with one of the village leaders discussing what we were thinking about doing there with the access to renewable energy, because of course those communities in many cases do not have access to energy. They live quite in darkness. And that village chief in about 2 minutes said, "You must meet my daughter. You must meet my daughter." And out comes this bubbly woman, just full of aspirations and full of ideas and full of energy. And so you can't not want to design a way to unleash that power, and also to see the play between his son and his daughter, on whom he was relying for that village in the next generation. I think this is something, you know, really, really profound that we recognize when we work in these communities. So as we went into to the Great Plains communities, we really looked at three things. We looked at access to energy and how we could deliver that in the best possible way. We looked at women's economic participation and how we could help Great Plains to think about and design some other sources of livelihood beyond the industry of tourism per se, as a resilience mechanism for those women in those communities. And then again, we looked at the animal-human conflict, which often happens on the edge of these conservation areas, where you have animals moving into communities and communities protecting their land and their crops from those animals. So that was really where we started to work together.
I'd love to bring Daphne in. At this point, Daphne's been a woman leader in Botswana and respected throughout Africa, and now working with the Great Plains Foundation. I'm wondering, Daphne, what you thought when you first heard this concept of, we're going to take village women to India, we're going to train them to be solar engineers, they're going to come back and bring renewable energy to communities where there was no connectivity or power. Did you believe it was possible?
Well, I did believe it was possible. It was exciting. African women, as you did use the word resilient, are very resilient. They would look out for anything to empower themselves so that they can give back to their, not only their immediate families and to the community as well. Because we do know that in every family, every village, it's really women who carry everybody behind them. So it is an amazing, it was an amazing transformation to see them, to hear and see them before they left and after. And when they came back, I met them when they arrived in Gaborone, and just how excited they were with the knowledge that they had gained and how they look forward to going back to their communities to impact that knowledge to the others. And unfortunately, of course, Corona helped. And the resilience that you talked about, what they then did was look for other ways while waiting to carry on with this education later on. They went on and looked for other ways of sustaining themselves and making a living for their families and to feed the children. And so it is exciting that we are looking forward to the end of Corona, if there is the end of Corona, or other ways of bringing them back into the fold to say, let's continue with what it is you have learned, so that we can teach more and teach the other girl child and the other women in the village, so that we spread it. I mean, we are talking, as Megan was saying, those villages that border the Delta is just really the poorest of them all. So if we could uplift them and make them better human beings, that would be really perfect. It is an exciting project.
And as you say, Daphne, if we can do it there, we can take the same deployment of technology, ingenuity, women's resilience and eagerness to be the leaders in their community, and deploy it elsewhere. And Megan, you have of course done that, as Solar Mamas have had training programs all over the world that have been hugely successful and have turned out solar engineers in something like 90 countries. what are the particular challenges as well as lessons that were learned from working in these villages in Botswana that we can take in and the ways in which we can take these lessons forward into other situations?
So, Pat, certainly the issue of climate change is one that is really affecting every community that we work with in Africa. Food security, access to water, the pattern of weather, harvests, the way the animals move and when they move, the seasonality of things. All of these are in a state of what I would consider to be high disruption. And as a result of that, there is a very significant need for us to adapt at a much faster pace right now, for us to see those coming and to really hear those signs, putting them together and understand, okay, what can we do for these communities or what can we help them to learn? And as Derek said, so much of it comes back to knowledge transfer and information. We live in this age of brilliant technologies, but somehow we still seem to think that poor people need to have poor technology. We still haven't come to a realization that our best technologies, our most innovative support mechanisms need to be put directly at the hands and in the hands of rural communities to lift them up. And it's not about them having to be a master of those technologies. We need to look differently at education and at knowledge transfer. Knowledge transfer needs to be designed for the person who needs to learn in the way they need that information, in the way they want to deploy it, and it probably will have a much more practical than theoretical application. And so I think this mindset that Beverly was talking about, I think we're so on common ground here, understanding that we need a really big mindset change. And this pandemic should give us that space, if nothing else, to recognize those fissures, to understand our own inadequacies at serving these populations, and to rethink the way we do business as usual.
And certainly Derek and Beverly and Daphne, the three of you are on the ground witnessing this in real time, the opportunity that exists now for all of this to come together and connect to facing these challenges in new and innovative ways. What have you learned about the way in which communities interact with the work of the Great Plains Foundation and how these kinds of programs can in fact transform as well as face the challenges?
Yeah, well, very definitely. One of the big lessons for us, and thankfully we learned it early, Pat, and that was to ask the communities, not just to dump a solution on their doorsteps. And so Daphne was part of this and went up and did exhaustive trips, and I cannot believe what she had to go through with the team to go from village to village to village and ask them what they wanted. And I think that, Megan, you were right in saying, you know, develop this technology for uses that they want it for, not to superimpose what we want them to use it for. And three big things came out of this. And the first was that our communities want education. So that's priority for them. They want jobs, but most of all, they want a future. And for many people in Africa, that future is not secure. If you don't know where your meal is coming from tomorrow night, you can't think about the future. And I think that in our social contract with them, we said to them, look, here's a program where we'll take 9 women to India and satisfy that hunger for education, and bring them back and have them spread those skills after 6 months at the Barefoot College. But in return for that, we want you to apply your minds to how you best want to use this technology. And I think that for me, it was certainly been open to that dialogue that changed me in many ways.
Absolutely. And many of them said, my gosh, you've given us a second chance. Many of them, possibly only had 4 or 5 years of schooling. And so when Megan and Bruce and our team went up there were many that were frightened. They were absolutely did not want to embrace it because this was the unknown. But now that these ladies have come back, that unknown has opened up their world. They are so empowered. They will speak out within their communities. And Daphne mentioned a little earlier that through COVID, everything stopped. And so, they felt that, they had gone through all that education and everything stopped. But their minds didn't stop because when they were at the Barefoot College, it wasn't only about the solar technology, it was about how to be a powerful woman, how to be empowered. And so each and every one came up with a solution on they would love to take for a period of COVID, a business that they would be able to run, but at the same time assist the communities. And the ideas were varied. Everything, from chicken farming to growing vegetables, to shoe repairs, because there are no shoe repairs in the area, to a special kind of weaving, whatever it was, but each and every one came up with these great solutions. So as Great Plains Foundation, we decided, to straight away give a grant towards that. And then when COVID is over and we can get the solar technology in, these ladies truly will have power in their hands to give power to the community. Thanks to, by the way, I have to still acknowledge, thanks to Pat for introducing us to Megan. So you were the first that brought the Barefoot College to us. Sure, and yourself and Scott. And we've just loved the fact that we've been able to take it this far and to have this wonderful collaboration. It's sort of a joint partnership with Barefoot College, and it's assisting the ladies, and we would love to then take it to all the properties, in Kenya, Zimbabwe, and possibly, with Project Ranger expanding, we might be able to assist Barefoot College in really getting it far and wide through Africa.
So Pat, one story that I recall. So first of all, these ladies come out of the most remote village in Botswana, villages. And many of them didn't even know what a passport was, but they had to get one and then go across to India in the summer. And on top of that, formed a WhatsApp group that they included me on. And we were engaging and talking to them all the way through, making sure that they were okay. And all was going well until 6 months into this, it became winter in India. And they said, it's very cold here. What were you thinking sending us here? But a lovely group of women.
Well, I thank you for recognizing the connection. All good things begin with connections, and we're hoping many good things will come from the connections of all these lovely, engaged people who have joined us today. And I have seen that when there are women from all over the world speaking all these different languages, learning from someone who teaches through colors and shapes how to put these microelectro systems. See, I don't even know what the boards, right? They're putting together the boards that power the solar. But Daphne, I think about you and your visits to these villages and how you were so instrumental in helping select the right women, make the right decisions about, who would go and how the whole thing would be managed through Great Plains Foundation and Barefoot. Now they're back, pandemic hits, many things can't go forward as they had planned. And yet, as Beverly just indicated, they're not giving up. The changes that have happened to them are sustained. Would you share a little bit more about that with us?
They don't give up. I reached out to 7 of them out of the 9, and I asked them what they've been doing, and they went out into the bush to collect grass, to sell, to make money, to feed the kids. And that just shows how they are committed to looking after themselves. And so the ones that came back, I asked them what it is that now that they want to do, because they spend a few weeks out there and collect this grass and bind it and sell it in the by the nearest road, or whoever wants to build a hut with it, or something. And they said they want to start selling sweets, and as Beverly says, so some of them wants to start looking for chickens to sell. So they don't stop. And what inspired me was also that they do not and have not forgotten the knowledge they gained through Barefoot College. They've got notes, they've got videos that they tell me that they look at from time to time so that they don't forget, because they do know that we are not going to leave them. They do know that we haven't forgotten them. They know that they're going to continue with their solar education. So they don't want to forget this. So, and you don't even need to ask them. They volunteer the information that, oh, thank you for reaching out to us. Oh, this is what we are doing. And they're excited with saying that. So it's not like they think because the corona has hit, we've forgotten them. They are the ones who are doing this. And that's the beauty of it, that they want to do it themselves. So you can only be positive and look for ways to assist them and reach out to them. And even when you do make that phone call to one and the others hear that you've called some and you were not able to reach others, they'll actually go and look for the last pennies to get airtime to call you and to start a conversation. So I will call them back to save them that airtime. And then they'll go on and tell you what it is that they've done. So it's not like they're in despair by what has happened. They're positive. And that's the beauty of it. They're positive. They're looking forward to life post-COVID, or life with COVID, as it now seems to be.
Unless we think this is just one village in Botswana or 2 or 3 villages around the Okavango, it's not. I mean, it is a transformative model of using technology, ingenuity, personal resiliency, need to bring something of value back to their communities. Megan, you've seen this work all over the world. What is your hope for the next steps now of these kinds of programs in Africa?
Well, I think that what you've just heard is the magic of this program. Which is really about how do you unlock a human resource that we have, and we have just so devalued or not invested in. And, you know, the total cost of training a solar mama is only about $2,500. And if we think about what she can then generate through her lifetime after that, it's quite extraordinary. Now, if you can believe it, the government of India, the Ministry of External Affairs, is actually the one who funds these scholarships for the women who come to India. That's a quite extraordinary and innovative thing, that you have a foreign government actually funding women from across the developing world to travel to India, to have that cross-cultural experience, to spend those 6 months with us, learning deeply not only how to fabricate, install, maintain, and repair solar home lighting sets, but also to learn 8 entrepreneurial agency building skills that embed this idea of her as her own entrepreneur. So this entrepreneurial mindset, and that's what Daphne's referring to. That's just, once you unlock that, forget it. There's no stopping her. She's going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different livelihoods. And that's what we need to create, that movement, that groundswell. So we have built now 5 Barefoot Colleges in Sub-Saharan Africa, in Madagascar, Sierra Leone, Senegal, Burkina Faso, and Tanzania, Zanzibar. And we are really looking at how those centers can become absolutely the focal point for Africa, because although we work in nearly 27 countries, I believe, in Africa now, across conflict and post-conflict areas with migrant populations and even refugees in some cases, in communities where natural resources are really threatening those communities, we do realize there is much more potential. Women are endless opportunity for us to empower with knowledge. And so those Barefoot colleges in Africa are really actively looking now for how they can expand what they teach to women. And those are the only vocational training colleges for non-educated formally women, possibly illiterate, semi-literate, that exist anywhere in the continent of Africa.
Would you repeat again that literally $2,500 pays for a woman to travel from her village to India, receive this training, and return home with the equipment that she needs to quite literally bring energy and power to her village?
That's correct. That's the cost. $2,500 is the cost of her training and all of her stay, her room and board, and her opportunity to pretty much transform not only herself, but her whole community.
We're going to share some information about how you can contribute if you wish to support a Solar Mama, because the point of gathering like this for conversations are to understand where solutions are being created. And what we have here today is a partnership between conservationists, people who have dedicated their life to conserving Africa's animals and its wildlife and its land, women like Daphne who are on the front lines, finding ways to empower the women in these communities, as well as the male allies who are with them, and we need those for sure, but to empower them to step into their own agency, their own voice, their own ability to bring about change. And then we also heard about an essential component of this, which is the ranger program, because you have to protect the natural ecosystem, the wildlife system that supports all of these other ecosystems so that human communities can thrive. And it all seems to come back, doesn't it, to one individual, one story, one compelling reminder of what's really at stake. So before hearing very specific ways in which you can engage, let's play one more ranger video to remind us again, it all begins with one fearless, courageous idea.
My name is Poster Mpho Malonga. I'm the chief monitoring here. I'm working hand in hand with wildlife anti-poaching guys and the Botswana Defense Force guys. To see the rhinos out there in the field, it's something special for me because I love the rhinos. And I promise the world that I'm going to look after these beautiful animals. Let's share everything we do have got to protect these animals. I love rhinos. They make me what I am now, and I've got almost 24 years experience working with the rhinos. They're my babies. They're part of my family, and I love them so much.
Project Ranger. Join us in preventing the new poaching pandemic.
We wanted to share that video because it just brings us back to what it's all about, isn't it? One man in that case, one species, the great rhino, which the Jouberts are also devoted and committed to saving. One idea, like training women in rural villages to become solar engineers, all of these interconnect to create not only a solution to many multiple challenges, but also ways forward to a more sustainable future. So Megan, how do we help?
So Pat, as you and all of us on this call know, this moment is an unprecedented one. It doesn't matter where in the world you're from, our individual lives have been disrupted in so many ways, and we all feel a bit unable to know what to do to make a difference. How can I, just one person, make a difference? We stand feeling a bit powerless, facing inequalities that seem suddenly out of time to resolve and injustices that seem to have become insurmountable, and most importantly, a planet caught in our often unknowing extractive behavior. It is with humility, I think, that we must all approach the world at this moment, demanding action from us. It's demanding action from us, and to recognize the need for us to act towards better shared prosperity for everyone. And that includes the animals, exactly as we've just seen in that video. We must lift each other up in all the ways we can now. So here are two things you can do, two simple things that will make a huge difference. You can go to your closet or your desk drawer and take out that old smartphone that you have laying around, that you just replaced with a new one not too long ago. You can drop it into the post to one of our regional collection points, because Vulcan has offered to give our rangers in the Ranger Project a state-of-the-art software that allows them to track and monitor their regions in an incredibly accurate and effective way. The only thing they're missing is a piece of hardware to work on it on. And the phone that you throw away can become an invaluable tool in the hands of a ranger. So the next time you hear from us, it will be from your ranger using your phone and showing you exactly what he or she is able to do with that to protect those beautiful and precious beasts in the wild. You can download the instructions in the chat, which are being posted right now, for how to reset your phone to its factory settings and where to send it to. And the second thing you can do, you can enable a solar mama to install a solar home lighting system and change the lives of an entire family, bringing better health, enabling better economic possibilities, and better education opportunities to not just one person, but an entire family just like yours. For a small donation of $140 US, you can transform an entire household. Clearing away the barriers to reaching our collective aspirations for each other and our planet starts with each of us doing a few small tangible things. Just like our solar mamas, one woman at a time has built an army across 93 countries of renewable energy access. And just like our rangers, one ranger at a time protects and saves one elephant at a time, one rhino at a time. This is how positive movements are born. We invite each and every one of you to become part of our collective movement to drive the use of education and practical technologies to address some of Africa's most critical challenges. On behalf of everyone at Great Plains Conservation, and certainly all of us at Barefoot College, we want to thank you in advance for attending this webinar and for accepting the opportunity to act and support our collective work.
One person can unlock enormous potential. Thank you to all the good work represented by our guests today and by each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.